It's funny when you look back. There I was, a health inspector, with 28 years of service working hard to keep people safe in a world where my authority often didn't feel like it mattered at all. I'd hear whispers from colleagues, "Vivian, you're too soft," or "Don't take it personally," when they push back. But what did they know? It wasn't just a job for me. It was a legacy. My late husband had believed in standing up for what was right, and I thought I was doing just that. But nothing prepared me for that day at a claw brasserie. Walking into a place that sparkled with opulence, yet held secrets I couldn't ignore. As I conducted my routine inspection, the blonde manager and her security guard confronted me like I was the intruder. Their dismissive smirks told me everything I feared, that I didn't belong, that I was a nuisance in their polished world. I stood there heart pounding, feeling small, yet something began to stir inside me. You see, in that moment, my fear of conflict transformed into something stronger, a quiet fire igniting. I couldn't let their arrogance stand unchallenged. I was there to protect the public, to honor what my husband stood for. Little did they know the confrontation wasn't the end of my story. It was just the beginning. This time, I wouldn't back down. As I stepped into A Claw Brasserie that day, I had every intention of doing my job, simple yet vital. For years, I'd navigated the nuances of health regulations safeguarding the public in a world that often overlooked the delicate balance of safety and profit. But this time, I was met not with respect, but with hostility. "Who do you think you are?" scoffed the blonde manager, her perfectly manicured nails resting defiantly on the marble countertop. "You think you can just waltz in here and pull your usual stunts?" The disbelief crashed over me like ice water. "I'm just here for a routine inspection," I replied, struggling to keep my voice steady. In that moment, the walls closed in, and I felt the weight of every eye on me, staff and patrons alike, all watching as the traction of my authority slipped away. Suddenly, the security guard strode forward, his presence thunderous. "You need to leave. We don't need your kind of interference here." His words hit with the force of a physical blow, my indignation igniting into fury. I had fought my battles with more than just confidence. I had fought with integrity, with the ghost of my late husband's principles spurring me on. "You can't just throw me out. I have a duty. You have no power here." His voice reverberated through the space, drowning out my protest and mocking the years I spent proving my worth. I'd always been the underdog, the one dismissed when I spoke up in meetings, the one who seemed to fade into the background. Yet beneath that surface, a flicker of defiance ignited. They thought they had broken me, but as I was physically removed, I stumbled, then straightened, my heartbeat echoing in my ears. I realized that this betrayal was not the end. No, it was a catalyst. It was time to reclaim my power. Enter Marcus, my junior inspector, stepping from the shadows with a recording device, an unexpected ally in that storm of class and privilege. "We've got evidence," he said simply, a determined glint in his eye. With the embers of anger still smouldering in my chest, I leaned into that fire. They had underestimated me before. They would not do so again. The air hung thick with doubt. Each morning, Vivian stared at the list of discrepancies she had gathered with Marcus. Some would call it evidence. Others would call it a death wish. There she was, a health inspector turned investigator, facing this colossal beast known as Aclaw Brasserie. And what did the locals think? They thought she was some uptight middle-aged woman with nothing better to do. Oh, look, they'd sneer. The health inspector lost another round to a breadstick. Every phone call she made to gather support ended in polite apologies and empty promises. Sorry, Vivian, we can't take action without more backing. Backing, here she was practically begging for someone to connect the dots while they walked around as if Michelin stars were made of gold. Each step forward felt like 2 steps back, and suddenly she was a tap dancer on a tightrope. But wait, there were moments that cracked through the chaos. A friendly nod from Marcus. A mentor's message of support. Vivian, don't back down. Yeah, easy for you to say when you're not the one facing a dozen eye-rolling waitstaff ready to challenge your authority with a fake laugh and a side of snark. Yet each time she felt the tug of surrender, some ridiculous little spark of stubbornness burst through. Maybe it was the memory of her late husband whispering, "Do what's right, Viv." Or maybe it was just her caffeine-fueled stubbornness mixed with a sprinkle of indignation. In those fleeting moments, she remembered. She wasn't just some loud voice against the gourmet establishment. She was carrying the hopes of everyone who'd ever felt overlooked by the industry. She had to double down. So, armed with her phone and a whole lot of sass, she braced herself for round 2. This time it was personal. The air was thick, heavy, like a storm waiting to break. Vivian stood outside Aclaw Brasserie again, her heart racing. The humiliation still echoed in her bones. But today would be different. Think of Frank, she whispered to herself. Suddenly her phone buzzed. Marcus's name lit up the screen. "We're ready," he texted. A flicker of hope ignited. She stepped inside. The chaos hit her like a wave. Servers rushing laughter, ringing out oblivious. But she was different now. The scent of gourmet food was no longer an allure. It was a reminder of everything that was wrong. This time she wasn't just a health inspector. She was confronting a nefarious giant. "Look at this," Marcus said, handing her a thick dossier. Evidence their web of deceit laid bare. With each page her resolve strengthened. "Let's expose them," she declared. Voice steady, eyes bright. There was fire where there had been doubt. Together, Marcus nodded, a shared determination filling the space between them. In the distance, muffled voices began to rise, media cameras focused on her. "Do you see that?" Vivian said, suddenly aware of the eyes on her. "People are watching." As they documented violations, her hands trembled, a mix of fear and courage. A video camera captured it all, the fearlessness of a woman unwilling to be silenced. She could feel it. A shift in the atmosphere. The tide was turning. The strength she drew from her husband's memory surged through her, wrapping around her like a protective shield. It was more than just a job. It was her legacy, her fight. She glanced back and a smile broke across her face. "I won't back down this time." And in that moment, she transformed. No longer was she broken. She was unstoppable. As Vivian stood at the lectern in the grand DC Council chambers, the hushed room buzzed with anticipation. Her heart raced, but she steadied her voice, echoing the commitment of her late husband. "Here lies the truth," she declared, casting her gaze over the assembled council members, reporters, and those who doubted her. The screen behind her flashed images of a claw's grimy underbelly, all the hidden filth they'd swept under the plush carpets. Gasps echoed through the audience as the evidence unfolded. The camera captured the flicker of realization on their faces, a moment so palpable it felt like a collective awakening. Headlines began to swirl through the cacophony of the city whistleblower shakes up DC and public health protector stands tall. Vivian's name transformed from whispers to roaring applause, a testament to her unwavering resolve. In the days that followed, Acclaw Brasserie stood shuttered, a bold statement that echoed her fight. Lines formed outside health inspector offices, citizens rallying to support their champion in a seemingly unending battle against corruption. Supporters held signs chanting her name, while Vivian, feeling the tremor of a new reality, managed a quiet smirk, a reflection of humble pride. Triumph had come not just from her efforts, but from the community she inspired. Yet, as Vivian departed the raucous council chambers, a weight remained deep within her, a reminder of the scars born from her battle. Success didn't erase the pain, it transformed it into something worth fighting for. As she pulled out her phone, reviewing her next steps, she knew the fight for justice never truly ended. With a renewed sense of purpose, she prepared for her next challenge, ready to expose whatever darkness lay hidden, believing that the struggle itself carved the path towards real change. As I look back on this journey, I find myself transformed in ways I never anticipated. I began as a steadfast guardian of health and safety, but the confrontation at Acclaw Brasserie stripped away my illusions about power and authority. I learned that trust once broken is an elusive spectre chasing you long after the betrayal. In the shadow of desperation, I discovered that revenge, while tempting, often leads only to a cycle of pain. Yet I still question, is revenge justice, or merely a facade that masks our unhealed wounds? To challenge the status quo, I had to battle not just for public safety, but for my dignity and my late husband's legacy. The road was fraught with peril, filled with allies who gave me strength in my darkest moments, yet also adversaries determined to silence me. This experience taught me that the pursuit of justice is not a solitary path, but a collective struggle, one that demands unwavering commitment and resilience. So I ask you, is fighting the system to right a wrong enough, or does it inevitably perpetuate more cycles of retribution? When we seek revenge, do we weaken our cause or strengthen our resolve? As I open my laptop for the next battle, I invite you to share your thoughts. Have you ever found yourself facing a similar crossroad? Let's keep this conversation alive, and maybe, just maybe, we can find a shared path toward a different kind of justice. Because the fight for what's right never truly ends, it transforms just as we do.